welcome to Casey's IEP meeting. Thank you guys all for coming. And Marissa, thank you for doing the OT evaluation. I know there were some concerns. Cara is waiting outside, Casey's mom. So if you guys are ready, I can go ahead and get her. Perfect.
Hi,
This is our IEP
Hi everyone.
meeting. And this is Mo, this is our school nurse.
Hi, nice to meet you.
And then Sydney, we have our general education teacher.
Nice to meet you.
This is special education teacher Carlene. And then we have our occupational therapist, Marissa.
Okay.
And then I just want to talk about Casey. He has some amazing strengths, and I did see that he's reading at a third grade level and doing fourth grade now in kindergarten. I also do know that it can be daily challenging to navigate the situation, but we're really glad you're here so we can speak about Casey. We did see some concerns regarding his health and wellness, so we thought we would change a couple of his accommodations and go over the concerns we have with him today. Definitely can go ahead and get started.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Do we each want to go around and introduce ourselves and a little bit about what we do in practice?
Sure. Yeah, please. Right, so I'm the school nurse, as guidance counselor Sangeeta said. I just kind of help manage with his medications. Just trying to, check in on his health and wellness, making sure, addressing his sleep routine, sleep schedule, nutrition, medications, as far as like dosing, how often he's taking the medications, how he's reacting to them, and symptoms, and we can get further into that as we progress through the meeting.
Okay. And I'm Sydney again. We met briefly a couple months ago when the schools first started this year, but I'm just a kindergarten teacher, so I'm in front of all the kiddos.
I'm Carlene. I am the special education teacher. I'm with Casey daily throughout all of his classes, just sitting with him and helping whenever he needs me.
Okay. So as Sangeeta said, I am the occupational therapist. So I recently did his eval, which I'll be sharing a lot of today. And what we do as occupational therapists is that we work on functional goals to increase independence, especially in the school system. We work on limiting those barriers that they have in the classroom and helping them to be as independent and productive in the classroom as they can. And I'm also going to be going over later in the session the home program, and any questions that you have, I'm here to answer them.
That's so great. I have many questions.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're here, Cara. And then, so I first wanted to go over the accommodations that Casey has.
Okay.
Based on his current IEP. So far it says, delivering verbal instructions to him and eliminating any distractions for Casey in the classroom. We also have giving short, concise directions, presenting information auditorily and visually, giving Casey immediate feedback just so that he knows what he's done, repeating directions for him, giving him choices and incentives frequently for positive behavior and compliance. And then it's also brought to my concern that he has a paraprofessional who works in the classroom with Casey. And then he's also currently in a modified school day setting from 8 to 11 to meet his needs for individual learning.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So then we can go ahead and start with the evaluation and what are the concerns that each of you have.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually wanted to kind of start it off because in OT we are strengths-based. So I wanted to kind of go around the table and say something that we each think is a strength that Casey has and something that we kind of see as something that he really succeeds in. So I'll go first. In our session, he is such an energetic kid and he loves being silly, and I just loved working with him.
Yeah, he's very smart especially with math and reading, and he loves doing that stuff. He's such a sweet kid.
I've noticed that Casey's very creative, especially when it comes to drawing. It's been really cool to see.
Yeah, so I had the chance of speaking with Casey every time he walks in the morning. He's very energetic, so clearly he gets enough sleep at night. But it's very good to see, and he always is excited to tell me about how he's taking his medicine right before he came in, so I guess you're doing something right.
Yeah. At home, he usually goes to bed around 9 p.m. and then wakes up at 7 every night. He doesn't no naps during the day, but he typically gets about 10 hours of sleep. And then another strength I would say is he can dress himself, but I have to just give him a little guidelines and make sure you're moving at the right pace. But he mostly can dress himself. And as far as feeding, he feeds himself, but he won't take any cold drinks or anything. He won't even try to drink anything cold.
Did you want to share a strength about Casey that you've seen through your time with him?
Honestly, I love Casey. He's
Yeah.
such a good kid. He always has such good energy, and I'm really glad that you came in here, Clara, today. It's really great of you. I know it's gonna be really scary because there's so many different people in today, but honestly, you're being very pro advocacy for your kids, so that's really good, and that's the first step of helping your child. So we're really glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you all very much.
Yeah, we really want to make this a safe space for you to ask any questions. So as I go through the eval, I'm opening up the space for any of you to jump in and say anything that's on your mind or something that you might have seen with Casey, or any questions that you have, because I know sometimes it can be overwhelming when all of this information is thrown at you. And we're also gonna be taking notes as we go through. That's why we all have our computers open. But we'll be sending those to you after the meeting, and we'll give our emails and phone numbers to you in case you have any questions, because we really want to provide that support not only to Casey but also to you.
Sounds good.
All right, so I'm going to hop into his eval. So his eval was 1 month ago on September 15th, so we're now in October, and he was seen for occupational therapy eval due to some things that his teachers noticed in the classroom, such as handwriting problems, developmental delays, and some behavioral challenges. So during my eval, I saw some sensory things that kind of popped up. He was quite fidgety during the eval. He appeared to be distracted by visual and auditory stimulation, which is later proved in his sensory profile that I did. And he was able to sit for long periods of time during the eval, which I think is a total strength, especially for our kids with sensory processing difficulties. But it was a little bit difficult for him to focus when he was seated. So these sensory issues might be contributing to some of the behaviors that we're seeing. So we kind of want to address those. Also working with you guys and what we can implement in the classroom. So I'm going to get into a little bit of his fine motor. So fine motor is basically anything that we do with our hands. It's more minuscule. It's especially important in the school, as you both know, because it's important for scissor skills, handwriting, and just doing everything with our hands, because that's what we do in daily living. So he does demonstrate some delays in his scissor skills and upper extremity endurance for those fine motor tasks that we need to use in the academic environment. But he does show age-appropriate coloring and drawing skills.
We love to color at home.
That's so awesome. Yeah, that's great. So you can also, I'll go over this a little bit later, but you can also facilitate a more mature grasp with broken crayons. It's an awesome tool that we love to use in OT, and y'all can implement that too in the classroom. He does have a pretty mature grasp, but just to get him really focusing on those fine motor skills, that's a great way to incorporate that in your home program.
Okay.
But yeah, he has great coloring and drawing skills, as you said. He's great at drawing in the classroom. So he does have developmental delays in the adaptive, personal, social, receptive communication, motor, reasoning, and academic skills when I administered the Patel test. So that's a test for school readiness, which kind of sees where he is at. But in my eval, that's something that we can address throughout the school year, both you guys in the classroom and me when he's pulled out for occupational therapy. He also, this might not impact the test, but I think it probably did, that he didn't have his glasses during the eval. So that might have impacted his visual perceptual skills.
Yeah, he does wear bifocals, but because we're experiencing some financial problems, I haven't been able to get him another pair yet.
Yeah.
So that could be what's really, he isn't able to see well and things like that.
I know that we had discussed with the guidance counselor too some options for that. If you had any ideas for
Yeah, so we were gonna, probably at the end, I can send you some links that I found regarding financial support, and then I can also ask some people here at our school regarding some financial support for you and Casey, regarding getting him eyeglasses and all that. So definitely at the end, I'll make sure I send you some links for
Yeah,
that.
that would be so great. We do our best at home, but ever since COVID-19, it's been hard to try to, finance things and get Casey the things he needs. But we do our best at home, so I'm really glad you guys are here to give me some solutions and things like that.
Yeah, of course. That's all that matters, is that you're trying your best and that you're doing the best for Casey. I think that's what we all want here, and that's
Yeah.
why we're here in the meeting today.
We just want him to succeed the best he can.
So he does demonstrate a right-hand preference. I don't know if you've noticed that at home or in the classroom, but he does have a pretty mature grasp. So he has a tripod grip, which is pretty advanced for his age, which is kind of on par with his like reading skills and math skills that y'all talked about. But he does have kind of an awkward way of holding his scissors, like so he's kind of like this when he's cutting. So that's something we could definitely address in occupational therapy. So with social skills, he does have decreased eye contact when you're talking to him. Is that something that you've kind of noticed at home?
Yeah, at home, we don't really have a lot of toys, but
Okay.
we were able to get like a play set in our backyard recently, and that seems to like help a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I think maybe his hearing and his not a lot of eye contact and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if it was just because I was kind of new and he was nervous, or if it's something that you were seeing also at home.
Yeah.
Does he have any siblings or any friends that he hangs out with, maybe on the weekends?
No, sometimes I try to get him to some play dates, but for the most part, it's just me, him, and his dad.
Okay. What I also noticed during our eval was that he's able to follow simple 1 to 2 step commands and follow through on activities, which is really important. That attention piece is really what we need first in cognition, so that's amazing. He also, I tended to notice that he does like rules and like a set schedule, but if that's something that we could implement maybe in the classroom and something that we can definitely integrate.
I definitely try and keep him on a schedule, especially like bathroom breaks and stuff. I try and make sure he stays on that because I did notice that pretty early on. But with it being school, sometimes there's some things that don't always work out like that, but we're definitely trying to keep him on a schedule.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the things you could do at home, or even in the classroom, is making a visual schedule, kind of that includes like his things he has to do at home and at school. So maybe it could be 2 separate, one you do at school and one you do at home.
That's a
That
good
includes
idea.
the things that he has going on in his routine.
Yeah, because usually I try to tell him, like, you know, we have like an hour to finish, or you have 5 minutes left, or something like that. But yeah, I think you're right. Maybe him being able to see it will help better with like his behaviors and things like that. Yeah.
So for our younger kids, I know we could probably all speak on this, but especially for kids who are very like rule oriented, knowing what comes next in a visual aspect rather than just auditory is really helpful in like just affirming that and creating some regulatory routine in his day. So
And along with the timer, I know you said you set a timer, have it visually in front of him so he can see how much time he has left.
Okay. So with the sensory form that I gave you, I also gave one to his teachers and they filled that out. And there was some discrepancy between the home form and the school form, which I think really speaks to his sensory regulation. So with the home form, really the only one that really stood out as a red flag was hearing. So he does have like hearing sensitivities. But in the main classroom, pretty much all of them were big red flags.
Yeah.
So social, visual, hearing, body awareness, balance, motor planning, and touch were pretty much all really high. So that's something
in
that
the school setting really quick, I have noticed giving breaks helps.
Yeah.
So just trying to help him advocate when he needs that as well, and then just going out and we have a little desk set up outside the classroom has helped a little bit.
I was gonna say a suggestion was also like maybe if he needs a break from the classroom itself, I'd love for him to come stop by my office.
Yeah.
He can come spend some time with me if he needs just a break away from his regular routine. You know, just something to get away, change of scenery for a second, you know, so he can get his emotions together and return back to class.
Yeah, I think that's really a great strategy, and we can even implement like maybe some sensory toys in there if he does need a break, bringing him down to like a regulatory level. Like I know fidgets are a great way to help kids regulate, and maybe some other things we could look into that the school could
I
provide.
can even build that into his schedule. Like we have bathroom breaks already set, but I can build that into his schedule too. That way he knows like if he's frustrated in 5 minutes we're going to see the nurse to kind of take a break. So I can
Yeah.
definitely do that.
And definitely, I can get some things in for him, like regarding the toy sensory toys and all that.
Mhm,
So if he's
yeah.
confused.
I would like to say, I know you said the home form was a lot different than the main classroom. We've been experiencing some financial difficulties, so I've only been able to give him like half of his ADHD medication.
Okay.
So when he comes to school, he only has like half of his medication, and so I think that could be messing with a little bit.
Yeah.
But if I gave him the full thing, he would run out, and then he would have none. So yeah.
What times about are you giving him the medication?
Just like right before, like when he wakes up in the morning, so before school, and then I'll give it to him again when he comes home from school. But again, it's only half of what he usually takes.
Right. So maybe like just a suggestion, maybe try giving it to him right before he leaves the house, so that it's kind of an extended period versus like giving it to him right when he wakes up, so it doesn't run out as quickly.
Okay.
Do you notice that he eats or drinks certain things that maybe make his symptoms worse or make his behaviors worse?
For the most part, he eats about whatever I put in front of him, just as long as the temperature is fine. I do notice that like after a long time that he has had his medication, maybe that's when he gets like more stressed out, or loud noises, or he's not really following directions like usual. So then I know like, okay, yeah, it's time for your medication again. But my main goal is for him to be at school all day, because right now he's only there for a couple of hours, and his education is very important to me. But I don't think he can be in school all day if we don't have the right medication to just have more behaviors.
Yeah. So that's something that I think all of us could kind of work together on and brainstorm about getting him the appropriate medication and getting him funding to that
Right. And
medication.
I'm glad that you brought that up, Carl, and you were honest about that, because
Yeah.
that's really important for him, like during the day. And so definitely, I think we do have some resources here that could like fully weigh the price for him. And I can also meet with the school nurse and see what options we have, and see if we can get those accommodations for him.
Yes, I
Or
will love
even
those.
possibly speaking to the doctor. I'm not sure what medication exactly he's on right now, but I know there is a variety of medications. Maybe we could opt for something that maybe is a little cheaper,
Yeah.
or maybe more affordable for you, and maybe possibly might work even better. It's just according to what works best for Casey. So it's definitely an option we can explore.
Great.
In the meantime, though, I was wondering if it would be possible. We can go over this again at the end as well. If you'd keep like a food and drink diary, and just a scheduled times and writing down the times of when you give the medication,
Okay.
just so you can kind of observe his symptoms based on like what he's eating and what he's taking the medication, seeing if maybe certain things or certain drinks maybe exacerbate them, or maybe they make it better. So yeah.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. I can do that for sure.
Did anyone have anything else that they wanted to speak on before I talk about Casey's home program?
I think just briefly, during class work, and during the time that he's there, he is very distracted, so again, that could go back to the medication then, and difficulty attending to tasks. And then he does have some behaviors, like tantrums, throwing things.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So just things like that we're wanting to address as well.
Yeah, and we currently are trying to use a behavior chart because he is a very visual kid, like we mentioned earlier, and we've noticed that helps a little bit, but I personally have noticed that his behaviors increase the easier he's frustrated, and most of those occur during activities like handwriting, things where he struggles, or things where he gets done really fast, like math and reading, and he's just excelling and he has nothing to do after that. So based on the behavior chart, those are typically the 2 times that those behaviors are increased.
Okay.
So just to wrap it up, I'm going to be recommending that he sees me 30 minutes per week to address that fine motor and some emotional regulations techniques. And then at home, really working on those fine motor skills, which is going to go hand in hand with the handwriting, and just implementing some organization and routine building at home. And so I'll give you the handout of all that and send it in an email, all the recommendations for ideas that I have for those, and some resources that will help you find some other ideas.
Yes, resources for like the medications? and
Yeah,
stuff like
of
that?
course. Yeah, I'll send that out to you. But yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Do you have
no
any other
questions.
questions?
For the 30 minutes a day,
Mhm.
is that gonna be part of his school day, or is that like something I'm gonna have to bring him to?
So it would be 30 minutes per week, and that's something that you do
Okay.
not have to bring him to. I will go to his classroom and either pull him out, or I'll go into his classroom and do the services in there. And depending on what I'm really looking for out of our session, will kind of dictate where and when I'm seeing him.
Okay, and then besides the visual schedule and
Mhm.
the coloring at home with the broken crayons,
Mhm.
are there any other things that you think I can do at home? to help?
Activities, yeah, of course. So I'm gonna include those all in the handout that I'm giving to you. But like tongue and tweezer activities for those fine motor skills, anything where he's doing something like super small, like bead activities, jewelry making,
Okay.
and then just practicing handwriting as much as you can at home, just so we're having carryover between what y'all are working on in
Yeah.
school and what you're working on at home. Would be great.
Okay, that sounds great. I can do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, of course. Yeah, we want you to feel empowered to help KC as long as everyone else in the team is on board with everything that's
Yeah, I
happening.
feel a lot better meeting you guys today. This is my first
Awesome.
meeting.
Yeah.
I care about Casey a lot, and it seems like you guys all do as well. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.